The two biggest storylines for the Atlanta Braves in 2022 revolve around Ronald Acuna Jr. returning to the lineup and the Braves' chances of repeating as World Series winners. What are you looking forward to the most for the upcoming season? We'll discuss that on today's episode of Locked On Braves. So let's get into it.
You are Locked On Braves, your daily Atlanta Braves podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey, and welcome back to Locked On Braves, brought to you by the Locked On Podcast Network, where we talk about your favorite teams every day. I'm your host, Jake Mastroianni. You can follow me on Twitter at shortstopball. Check out my bio there to see everywhere I am covering the game of baseball, including the Atlanta Braves in written form over at tomahawktake.com. Also, make sure you follow the podcast on Twitter at LockedOn_Braves and subscribe to the Locked On Braves podcast wherever you get your podcast. Also, if you're watching on YouTube, please do me a favor and hit that subscribe button. And as always, thanks for making Locked On Braves your first listen each and every day. We post episodes daily, 5 days a week, Monday through Friday, and we are free and available on all platforms. And today we are going to be talking about the two biggest storylines for the 2022 season regarding the Atlanta Braves. Also, there were some changes made to the opening day schedule, and also the ceremonies for the opening weekend have been announced. So we'll get into that as well. And in case you missed it, I have been going over the biggest storylines for the upcoming season this week. So if you want to go back and check out some of those storylines, you can do so listening to Monday and Tuesday's podcast. We're going to wrap up that series today, giving you my two biggest storylines entering the season. And the second biggest storyline for me is the return of Ronald Acuna Jr. And I am so excited for his return, so excited to see what he can do coming back from a really bad injury, a really bad ACL injury. How quickly does he get back to form? That's one of the biggest questions, I think, for Atlanta Braves fans. For me, it's not necessarily does he get back to form? Does he get back to an MVP level? It's how quickly does that happen? Does it happen right away? And I know Ronnie's gone on record already this spring saying he expects to be playing at an MVP level as soon as he returns. I know he's confident, ready to go, but still, we need to see it. And as much as I believe it's going to happen, we still need to see it happen. And I'm excited to see when that happens. Also, when and where does he play in the field? Right now it's looking like he can start DHing in late April and then could potentially return to the field in early May. That is best case scenario at the moment. And it looks like that's going to happen. From all the video I've seen, he looks to be in great shape, looks to be ready to go. I think team doctors were really impressed with the progress he has made. So, it looks like he won't miss a ton of time to start the season, but how much do the Braves push him? And, I've talked about this before. It's going to be hard for Brian Snitker, knowing that Ronald Acuna Jr. is on your roster and not have him in the lineup every day. But do you potentially sit him on occasion? Do you rest him here and there to try to ease him back into this? Again, it's going to be hard to do when you have the best player in the league sitting on your roster, but it'll be interesting to see how Snitker and the Braves, manage his load, particularly early in the season, because once you put him out there, he's full go. There is no stopping him. There's no slowing him down. So it'll be interesting to see, what his workload really looks like, in these first couple of months. And then what type of season can we expect from Ronald Acuna Jr.? I think that's what we're all excited about as fans. You look at his 2021 season when he was still just 23 years old. He had a WRC plus of 157 and 4.2 WAR in just 82 games. He had 24 home runs, 72 runs scored, 52 RBI, and 17 stolen bases. That's in 82 games, which is just incredible. You go to 2019, he slashed 280, 365, 518 with 41 home runs, 127 runs scored, 101 RBI, 37 stolen bases, a 125 WRC plus, and 5.5 WAR. So we know what he's capable of. He's capable of putting up MVP type numbers. Most projection systems have him getting 450 to 500 at bats, which would be somewhere, between 130 and 140 games, which seems about right. He's likely going to miss at least 2 weeks of games to start the year. So that's probably 10 to 14 games there he's going to miss to start the season already. And then, like I said, they'll probably try to manage his workload a little bit throughout the season, especially early on, maybe giving him some days off on day games after night games and things like that. So I think 140 games, I think that would be outstanding. If he gets to 140 games, I think he wins the MVP. They have projection systems have him slashing 280, 385, 570, which are big numbers. 35 home runs, 110 runs scored, 85 to 90 RBI, and 25 stolen bases. He should probably back off on the stolen bases a little bit, maybe not run quite as much, again, especially early in the season. But like I said, once you put Ronnie out there, you're not going to slow him down. He's going to play his game no matter what. So I still expect him to steal, 20 plus bags this season. And how quickly he's back in the field could play a big role in his overall WAR numbers, which play a big role in his MVP candidacy. If he comes back playing in the field and they put him in right field, where I think he's a better defender, where I think he's a Gold Glove defender, I think that could, improve his WAR, improve his stock as an MVP candidate. They have to put him in center field, where he still is really good. I'm not saying he's not. I just think he's significantly better in right field. I think his arm plays up there as well. So it'll be interesting to see again when he comes back to the field, where he plays. Does he immediately go to center field, or do they plug him in right field, stick with Duvall in center? It's going to be interesting to just see how the outfield dynamics kind of play out throughout the season, regardless. Like I said, I expect him to be back to his normal self when he returns. He certainly expects that as well. The Ronald Acuna Jr. experience should be a lot of fun in 2022, and I'm here to witness every moment of it, and I hope you are as well. What is the number one storyline for the Atlanta Braves going into the 2022 season? We'll discuss that next. Our next partner has a product I use literally every day. I started taking Athletic Greens because I wanted to optimize my immune system. I have 2 young kids who are in a daycare. They're constantly bringing home germs and viruses. Athletic Greens has helped boost my immune system so I can avoid sick days and not miss a day on the podcast. So what is this stuff? With one delicious scoop of Athletic Greens, you're absorbing 75 high-quality vitamins, minerals, whole food source superfoods, probiotics, and adaptogens to help you start your day right. This special blend of ingredients supports your gut health, your nervous system, your immune system, your energy, recovery, focus, and aging, all the things. Athletic Greens was created when the founder experienced a ton of gut health issues and ended up on a complicated supplement routine to recover. It cost him $100 a day. He created Athletic Greens after experiencing how difficult it was to create an optimal nutrition routine on your own. Right now, it's time to reclaim your health and arm your immune system with convenient daily nutrition. It's just 1 scoop in a cup of water every day. That's it. No need for a million different pills and supplements to look out for your health. And to make it easy, Athletic Greens is going to give you a free 1-year supply of immune supporting vitamin D and 5 free travel packs with your first purchase. All you have to do is visit athleticgreens.com/MLB network. Again, that is athleticgreens.com/MLB network to take ownership of your health and pick up the ultimate daily nutritional insurance. The number one storyline for the Atlanta Braves in 2022 is whether or not they can repeat as World Series champions. And that has to be the biggest storyline, right? After winning a World Series, how do you follow that up? What does the encore Do you fall off a cliff? Do you come right back and compete for another World Series title? It's one of the hardest things to do in sports, in baseball specifically, to repeat as champions. It hasn't been done since 2000 when the Yankees ended a streak of winning 3 in a row from 1998 to 2000. And they actually won 4 or 5 from 96 to 2000. Should have been the Braves making that dynasty run, but alas, hasn't been done since then. Can the Braves be the team to break the mold? Closest you had was the Giants, who had that on again, off again for 5 years, where they won 3 World Series champions. I think the Braves will compete for another World Series. I think they'll at least get to another World Series over the next 5 years. But can they do it the year after winning the World Series? And can they win it all again and become the first repeat winners since 2000? They have the team to get it done. Alex Anthopoulos has put together a roster that can beat anyone, and I truly believe that. On the Braves' best day, up against the Dodgers' best day, I feel like the Braves can win that game. This is a roster ready to compete, ready to win a division, ready to win a World Series. And like I said, that's all you can ask for as a fan, especially coming off a World Series. It's not one of those situations where the organization just sold out to win one ring. They are here to compete for years to come. And they've done that in 2022, putting together a roster on paper that is good enough to beat anybody in the league and is good enough to win another World Series. Something that was talked about on the broadcast the other day, I think it was Jeff Rancour that mentioned it. You have players on this team who missed out on last year's success that will be hungry to do it again and create their own World Series story. Players like Ronald Acuna Jr., Marcell Ozuna, Matt Olson, possibly even Mike Soroka, and to a certain degree, Charlie Morton. I know he pitched in game one of the World Series, but it bugged him to not be there to finish it off with his teammates. He's back again, and I think he's hungry to come back and pitch a clinching game in the World Series. I really think he's hungry to do that. No, he's already done it in his career, but to do it in Atlanta, I think he has a lot of motivation to do that as well, to finish it off this time. Dansby's in a contract year, so he'll be motivated. I'm expecting big things from Dansby. I think part of this is how quickly do they put 2021 behind them. The celebration, all of that. I think the lockout may have helped in some ways because, it kind of took everything, all the focus off of that for a while. And then they came back and it's just rushed. Hey, the 2022 season is starting. It's here. Let's get going. Hopefully that kind of helps them, put 2021 in the past. Look, it's hard for me as a fan to do it. I'm still watching Jorge Soler bombs and I'm still reliving some of those highlights. But as a team, how quickly can they do that, and can they focus on 2022 and winning another championship? Does fatigue set in at some point after playing an extra month of baseball? Charlie Morton threw 185 and 2/3 innings last year in the regular season alone. Fried threw 164 and 2/3 innings, the most in his career. Anderson 128.1, the most big league innings in his career. Does the pitching staff get kind of fatigued? Does the bullpen get fatigued, which was used, daily in the postseason? This is where, bringing in, new guys like Kenley Jansen, Colin McHugh, will be big there to help out in the bullpen. This is where using a 6-man rotation could be huge for the Braves. If they have enough young starters who step up, if Kyle Wright, Waskari Noah, Tucker Davidson, maybe one of the other guys, maybe Mueller, maybe Elder or Strider later down the road, if they can step up to the point where the Braves can comfortably run out a 6-man rotation, that would be really huge in order to kind of, take off some of that fatigue from the World Series run last year and limit some of the innings of these starting pitchers. So that'll be something key to watch. Look, the competition isn't much different. Yes, the Mets are very much improved on paper. You can't deny that. You can't ignore that. They may have had the best offseason of any team in baseball as far as, improving the team from last year to this year. I think the Braves made really smart moves, but I think a lot of that was just replacing what they had last year for this year. The Mets made really good upgrades to their team. They're going to be really good, and but they're not to a point where they're head and shoulders above the Braves. On paper, if they are at all. And a lot of it really depends on DeGrom and Scherzer staying healthy atop that rotation, and that's a big question mark. The Dodgers aren't much different than the team they beat in the NLCS last year. I know everybody's coining them as a monster team with that lineup. It's really not much different than what the Braves faced last year or what the team that they had 3-1 in the NLCS the year before that. So, you know, yes, they're a good team. The Mets, the Dodgers, they're good teams. The Brewers will still have one of the best pitching staffs in all of baseball. But none of these teams are unbeatable for the Braves. The depth of the bullpen should help a ton in allowing Snicker to manage starters' innings and to hold on to those slim leads that really got away from them a lot last year and really cost them several wins. So going into a season with 5, 6, 7 relievers that you can depend on is huge. I think that will play a massive role this season in the Braves picking up those wins, particularly early on in the season, and not letting those get away and not falling behind. They can't fall behind like they did last year. The competition in the NL East is just too good for that. They have question marks just like any other team, but I think their question marks have potentially solid answers. For instance, in the rotation, like I just mentioned, you have the three at the top, and there's question marks behind them, but I think they could potentially be very good question marks. Depth at certain spots could be an issue, but other than the Dodgers, every team deals with depth issues. If somebody goes down on top of the lineup, depth becomes a serious problem for a lot of teams. In game, the bench should not matter quite as much with the DH. So that's where, having that bench depth maybe not be as big a deal as it was in the past. But, certainly for injury's sake, that's where it kind of becomes a problem. Are you going to have an Orlando Arcia step in for, Riley or Dansby or Ozzie? Are you going to have an Alex Dickerson filling in everyday role for Eddie Rosario? That's kind of the depth the Braves are looking at right now, and that could be problematic. But injuries are a part of the game. That's where you have to hope that your GM can, recover, can adjust, just like Alex did last year. Maybe the things that worries me the most is the leadership on the team. Who takes those big questions when the team is struggling? Who takes ownership of the struggles during that time? Will it be a collective, or will someone emerge as the team leader? I think that gets figured out during the year, but going into the season, I don't really know who that is. I think Charlie Morton is that guy for the pitchers, but I don't think he can be that guy for the entire team as he doesn't go out there every day. It really needs to be a position player, maybe somebody like Dansby, although he's going into a free agent season, or maybe Ozzie. I think he could be a really good leader. I think Travis d'Arnaud could be that guy as well if he can stay healthy and stay on the field for the majority of the season. But again, I think that's something that gets figured out throughout the year. But that's what it's going to take, for the Braves to repeat as World Series champions. And it'll be interesting to see how all that plays out throughout the season and whether or not they can do what hasn't been done in over 20 years and win back-to-back World Series. Next, there are some changes for the opening day weekend festivities in Atlanta. We'll talk about that and some other news from Tuesday. This is the time of year I've pretty much given up on all my New Year's resolutions, but not this year. Thanks to Built Bar. Built Bar is a fantastic tasting protein bar that is great for you as well. Most of them only have 130 calories, 4 grams of sugar, 4 net carbs, and 17 grams of protein. And they have delicious flavors from mint brownie, coconut almond, and my favorite, the cookies and cream. These are just fantastic protein bars to have, fantastic snacks to have. You replace them with your candy bars because they taste just as good as a candy bar, if not better. And like I said, they're great for you as well. So go to built.com, use the promo code LOCKED15 to get 15% off your order. Again, use promo code LOCKED15 for 15% off at built.com. Some news from Tuesday. There was no game on Tuesday, the Braves off day in spring training. But it was announced that the Braves' opening day game against the Reds on Thursday, April the 7th, will now be exclusively televised on ESPN2, and the start time has changed from 7:20 p.m. Eastern to 8 p.m. Eastern. And as somebody who lives in Birmingham and was planning on just driving to the game and driving back afterwards, I'm not a fan of that later start time. Looks like I'll now need a place to stay in Atlanta. So you got somewhere for me to shack up for the night. I might be interested, but they will now exclusively be televised on ESPN2. The World Series pennant ceremony will be on opening day. On Friday, they'll celebrate the 2021 award winners, and then on Saturday, the team will receive their World Series rings. Kind of bummed. I was hoping that was going to be on Friday or on Thursday, as I'll be at that game. Fans can get a replica ring on Monday, April 11th. First 40,000 fans, so pretty much everyone. So if you want a replica ring, you might want to go out and get those tickets for Monday, April 11th against the Nationals. Dakota projections are out. They have the Mets and Braves neck and neck, with both of them winning 92 games. So that's going to make those head-to-head matchups even more important this year between the Mets and Braves. I don't know about you. I'm a little bummed that Dakota actually has the Braves winning so many games and finishing atop the division, as liked playing that underdog role the last couple of years. But those projection systems aren't falling for it this year. And really what that tells you, and I wrote about this on tomahawktake.com on Tuesday, because Dakota projections are just a simulation-based computer system. And it tells you what we already know. The Braves on paper have a winning team. One thing interesting from those projections, the NL East is the only division that every team is projected to win at least 70 games. So again, that tells you that the projection systems think the NL East will be a very tough division, have a lot of good teams, and they'll beat up on each other, which is a bummer because now those top two seeds are so important in the postseason, and the projection systems have the Brewers and Dodgers winning more games than the NL East winner, which means the NL East winner just basically, just sure because the NL East is so tough, could have to play in a wild card series. So that's a bit difficult, but whatever it may be, as long as they get in. That will do it for this episode of Locked On Braves. Be sure to follow us on Twitter at LockedOn_Braves. Also, make sure you subscribe to the podcast wherever you get your podcast, and we'll talk to you next time.